Hello everyone, this is Rebecca Kokendorfer with homeschool.com. It's story time. So parents, this is your chance to take a break. I know how hard you work, and so I'm just doing these fun little story times so that you can, either put the kids on your lap and let them color, or maybe you can put them in front of the video and let me babysit them for a little bit while you get a cup of coffee. Just something so that I can support you even long distance. So in honor of Black History Month, I found this charming little story. It's called Henry's Freedom Box, and it's about a slave who mailed himself to freedom. He mailed himself to Philadelphia. It's a true story, one of the true stories coming from the Underground Railroad, and I have always found that to be such a fascinating topic. So I thought you might enjoy this charming little story, and I think we'll be able to finish the whole story in this one taping. So parents, this is for you. And kids, hi there, I'm Rebecca. Thank you for letting me read to you. I really love reading, and my kids are grown up and they don't let me do it to them anymore. They don't let me read to them anymore. Okay, so we'll begin. Henry's Freedom Box. The author, it's written by Ellen Levine, and the drawings are by Kadir Nelson. And I put a link to Amazon to the beautifully illustrated hardcover book. And I wasn't able to, hi there, thank you for putting the thumbs up. I wasn't able to get the hardcover version in time to show you the picture, so I just printed out the words. And parents, feel free to interrupt me during any of these Facebook Lives, okay? If you have anything going on in your homeschooling, any questions, anything I can do at all to help you, it is not an interruption. It's my absolute pleasure to be able to help you. So go ahead and put something in the comment field, and then I'll do a special Facebook Live on that topic. Because remember, if you have that question or that concern, other people probably do too. So feel free to interrupt, and hopefully I will see the comment going across the bottom here, and that way I can say hi to you as well. Okay, so we'll get started. Henry Brown wasn't sure how old he was. Henry was a slave, and slaves weren't allowed to know their birthdays. Henry and his brothers and sisters worked in the big house where the master lived. Henry's master had been good to Henry and his family. But Henry's mother knew things could change. "Do you see those leaves blowing in the wind? They are torn from the trees like slave children are torn from their families." One morning the master called for Henry and his mother. They climbed the wide staircase. The master lay in bed with only his head above the quilt. He was very ill. He beckoned them to come closer. Some slaves were freed by their owners. Henry's heart beat fast. Maybe the master would set him free. But the master said, "You are a good worker, Henry. I am giving you to my son. You must obey him and never tell a lie." Henry nodded, but he didn't say thank you. That would have been a lie. Henry nodded, and later that day, Henry watched a bird soar high above the trees. Free bird. Happy bird, Henry thought. Henry said goodbye to his family. He looked across the field. The leaves swirled in the wind. Henry worked in his new master's factory. He was good at his job. Did you tear that tobacco leaf?" the boss yelled at the new boy. He poked the boy with a stick. If you made a mistake, the boss would beat you. Henry was lonely. One day he met Nancy, who was shopping for her mistress. They walked and talked and agreed to meet again. Henry felt like singing, but slaves didn't dare sing in the streets. Instead, he hummed all the way home. Months later, Henry asked Nancy to be his wife. When both their masters agreed, Henry and Nancy were married. Soon there was a little baby, then another and another. Henry knew they were very lucky. They lived together even though they had different masters. But Nancy was worried. Her master had lost a great deal of money. "I'm afraid he will sell our children," she said. Henry sat very still. Henry worked hard all morning. He tried to forget what Nancy had said. His friends, James came into the factory. He whispered to Henry, "Your wife and children were just sold at the slave market." "No!" cried Henry. Henry couldn't move. He couldn't think. He couldn't work. "Twist that tobacco," the boss poked Henry. Henry twisted tobacco leaves. His heart twisted in his chest. At lunchtime, Henry rushed to the center of town. A large group of slaves were tied together. The owner shouted at them. Henry looked for his family. "Father! Father!" Henry watched his children disappear down the road. Where was Nancy? He saw her the same moment she saw him. When he wiped away his tears, Nancy too was gone. Henry no longer sang. He couldn't hum. He went to work, and night he ate supper and went to bed. Henry tried to think of happy times, but all he could see were the carts carrying away everyone he loved. Henry knew he would never see his family again. Many weeks passed. One morning Henry heard singing. A little bird flew out of a tree into the open sky, and Henry thought about being free. But how? As he lifted a crate, he knew the answer. He asked James and Dr. Smith to help him. Dr. Smith was a white man who thought slavery was wrong. They met early the next day at an empty warehouse. Henry arrived with a box. "I will mail myself to a place where there are no slaves," he said. James stared at the box, then at Henry. "What if you cough and someone hears you?" "I will cover my mouth and hope," Henry said. Dr. Smith wrote on the box, "To William H. Johnson, Arch Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania." Henry would be delivered to friends in Philadelphia. Then he printed on the crate in big letters, "This side up, with care." Henry needed an excuse to stay home, or the work boss would think he had run off. James pointed to Henry's sore finger, but Henry knew it wasn't bad enough. He opened a bottle of oil of vitriol. "No!" cried James. Henry poured it on his hand. It burned his skin to the bone. Now the boss would have to let him stay home. Dr. Smith bandaged Henry's hand. They arranged to meet the next morning at 4 o'clock. The sun was not yet up when Henry climbed into the box. "Ready," he said. James nailed down the lid. Dr. Smith and James drove to the station. The railway clerk tipped the box over and nailed a paper to the bottom. Dr. Smith begged the clerks to be careful, but they didn't listen. They threw the box into the baggage car. Hours passed. Henry was lifted up and thrown again, upside down. He heard waves splashing. This must be the steamboat headed for Washington, D.C. The ship rode smoothly, but Henry was still upside down. Blood rushed to his head. His face got hot. His eyes ached. He thought his head would burst. But he was afraid to move, afraid someone might hear him. "I'm tired of standing," someone said. "Why don't we move that box and sit on it?" said another. Henry held his breath. Could they be talking about his box? Henry was pushed. The box scraped the deck. Now he was on his right side, now on his left, and suddenly right side up. "What do you think is in here?" said the first man. "Soil, I guess," said the other. I mean mail," he said, and Henry thought, "Mail, I am mail, but not the kind they imagine." Henry was carried off the steamboat and placed in a railroad car, this time head up. He fell asleep to the rattling song of the train wheels. He awoke to a loud knocking. "Henry, are you all right in there?" "All right," he answered. The cover was pried open. Henry stretched and stood up. 4 men smiled at him. Welcome to Philadelphia. At last, Henry had a birthday. March 30th, 1849, his first day of freedom. And from that day on, he also had a middle name. Everyone called him Henry Box Brown. So what did you think of that story? Do you want to learn more about the Underground Railroad? One of my favorite stories that you might want to read is Under the Drinking Gourd. My ancestors were Quakers, and they were very involved in the Underground Railroad rescuing slaves. So I am so glad that you were able to join me. Do you have any questions that I can answer while I'm here live? How is your homeschooling going? So when I'm filming this right now, it's February, and sometimes people experience the winter doldrums. You know, the holidays are over and they're back at work. You know, maybe you're worried you're not doing enough. Maybe winter has been lasting a long time. So how is your homeschooling doing? So if you want, write them right here in the comments, or you can write to me, Rebecca@homeschool.com, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Or you can post them here on homeschool.com's Facebook page, and they will get passed to me, and I'll make sure I do a special video just for you. So I hope you enjoyed this story. I see Pat Wyman. Hi, Pat Wyman. Thank you for joining. So happy to have everyone here. I wish I could see you at the same time you're seeing me. So I hope everything is going well for you. Parents, I'm going to find some more books for you. I was just on vacation in Wales, and Wales is crazy for dragons. They have a dragon on their flag. They have red dragons everywhere. And I'm a little crazy for dragons too. So I bought a children's book all about a red dragon. So for our next story time, I'm going to read that story to you. And maybe the kids can draw pictures of dragons. So that would be really fun too. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. This is Rebecca with homeschool.com, and let me know how I can help you, okay? I've got your back. Talk to you soon. Bye.